Hi, this is Professor Cataldo, and I'm going to walk you through what is referred to as the high-low method of developing a cost equation. If there are any topics in accounting or business you're having difficulty with, leave a comment. I will try to develop a YouTube video to help you. The high-low method uses two observations, the high observation and the low observation. And they use these to separate mixed costs or total costs into what are referred to as fixed and variable cost components. It does this to allow you to arrive at what's called a cost equation. I'm going to use an example of 12 months or observations of matched costs and activity levels or cost drivers. The matching principle is taught and introduced in introductory financial accounting. The material I am covering here, the high-low method, is taught or introduced in introductory managerial or cost accounting. So it's very, very helpful to understand the matching principle or accrual accounting before you start looking at this particular PowerPoint slide. Many textbooks do use less than 12 observations, but that's a fundamentally flawed approach, as you might end up with this could result in a cost equation that is deceptive and does not capture a complete seasonal cycle. There are 12 months in a year. You probably want at least 12 months worth of data to develop a cost equation. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're in a resort area where there's skiing. So you're going to have high activity levels, high revenues and expenses during the winter months of the year, perhaps, and very low during the summer months. And if you do not capture the entire seasonal cycle, the entire 12 months, you're going to get a very different cost equation if you use 6 months during winter than you will if you use 6 months during summer. So bring that up in class if you like. This is an example. I just made it up. Units sold and the mixed cost, which I'm going to separate into fixed and variable components or into a cost equation. In February, in this particular example, I sold 125 units. That is the low. If you look at all 12 months, that is the lowest measure. The mixed cost is also relatively low, 38,000. July is relatively high, 300 units, 59,000. So I have a high point and a low point, a low observation and a high observation in a 12-month period. So I've identified the high activity and the low activity and the related total costs or mixed costs that are matched to each activity level. Again, recall the matching principle and the periodicity assumption from introductory financial accounting. So accrual accounting must be used for the high-low method to work. And if you want, you can bring that up in class. So we're now able to isolate the variable cost component of total cost or mixed costs, and here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to recall that total costs less fixed costs equals the variable cost. If you prefer, mixed cost less the fixed cost equals the variable cost. And in the case of the high-low method, I'm going to take the high cost and I'm going to subtract the low cost and I'm going to arrive at the variable cost. Now under the high-low method, the low cost is usually the fixed cost component. So here's my example where I take the data for the high period, $59,000 of total or mixed costs divided by 300 units, and I take the low, 39,000 of total or mixed costs divided by the units, and I arrive at a cost equation. Let's see, the 59,000 less the 38 equals the 21,000. The 300 units less the 125 equals 175 units. I have isolated, using the high-low method, the variable cost component. And now I can arrive at a variable cost. The variable cost is $120 per unit sold in this case. Now that I have the variable cost, I'm going to back into the fixed costs, which should be equal or comparable under the high-low method. So I've taken my mixed costs or total costs for the high at $59,000, my mixed costs or total costs for the low at $38,000. I've developed an equation that suggests that the variable cost is $120 per unit. Notice that's the same for both the high and the low. I'm going to multiply that by the number of units, 300 for the high, 125 for the low. So, again, looking at the high-low columns, the 59,000 under high less the 36,000 variable costs is going to give me the fixed cost. Alternatively, the mixed cost or total cost of 59,000 less the variable cost of 36,000 gives me a fixed cost of 23,000. It also works to the right-hand side under the low column. And I know that I've done the equation and applied the method correctly if my fixed cost is the same for both, and it is. So I have a fixed cost of $23,000 using the high-low method plus $120 variable costs per unit. There's my equation. My total cost equals $23,000 fixed costs plus $120 variable costs multiplied by the number of units sold. Same with mixed costs. Thank you.